Hey everybody, welcome to the One More Podcast. Today we're going to be talking to Gaby Juergens. You can find her on Facebook or you can go to homefrontgirl.com. Check out all of her apparel collections. Make sure to check out Operation Homefront as well, one of the foundations that she supports. Also make sure to just keep in mind that freedom isn't free. And we need to make sure that we support our men and women that are in the armed services protecting us every day. Appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another One More Podcast. I'm here with Blake and a very, very, very super special guest with us. Would you like to go ahead and give us a brief description of who you are, Gaby, and what you stand for? Just a quick, 60-second pitch.
Oh, great. My elevator pitch. Here we go. Okay. My name is Gaby Juergens. I'm the founder and creator of Homefront Girl, which the tagline on that one is sharing my hero with the world. I started my design studio, basically after my former husband retired from the military after a career in the Army. Mm-hmm. And I raised my son into life. And the reason I created the studio was because I wanted a creative outlet, but at the same time, I also wanted to see reflected in designs and in retail, something about the lifestyle that a military family leads, the children, what I came to call the other half of the brave. I kind of wanted to shine a light on that and also do it in a fun and trendy way, something that kind of cemented the bonds in the military, mm-hmm. in their families, and also kind of introduced our way of life through something as innocuous as a message on a mug, but somewhat in a way that, it made someone stop who was a civilian, say, oh, wow, and looked at us in the way that we really are and what our lives are like. Because usually you only see the families when they're coming home or there's something on, unfortunately something bad might happen or we lose someone. Right. There's a whole lifestyle to this being in the military life. And so that was I'm over my 60 minutes, aren't I?
Oh, no, you're totally fine. Hey,
and the amount of 3, 2, 1, and time is up, Gaby.
Yeah. No.
Alex Trebek number here.
No, the amount of times that Blake and I like to tangent and just go off on mini rants, it's totally fine. If you go ahead, keep going. It's all great.
Okay. Well, where was I? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I started the studio to kind of reflect all that, mm-hmm. and then I signed with the Yankee Candle Company, and then first I got an agent, mm-hmm. which I'm surprised I got an agent. And I was
go you.
Yeah, go me. Where am I going? but I started, just slowly. I built up a collection of about 800 designs, and then I had to throw about 500 away, mm-hmm. because I soon learned that I couldn't use any of the IP properties, intellectual properties, like the Marine emblem or anything like that. You can't do that in retail,
right?
Without their permission, which is fine. But I also wasn't going to have a second layer between me and the buyer or the manufacturer, because that's just ridiculous.
Right.
It just hampers you, and nobody will want to do business with you.
No, of course.
So I started all over, and now I'm up to about 2,000 designs. I've got about 60 camos. Mm-hmm. I create on my own. They're all fun and trendy, and
that's awesome.
They're not your grandpa's camos. I'll just say that.
So let me interject then real quick, just to bounce off what you were saying right now. In terms of design and kind of the fashion and sort of the creative aspect of everything you're doing behind Homefront Girl, would you say that growing up you were kind of a creative person, or do you think kind of in this chapter? Okay, definitely. So it's always been.
In fact, this is something that I was doing sort of. I married very young, fairy tale wedding at West Point, I basically, you have two professions that really travel with you. Now, I say this only as it was in my day, mm-hmm. which wasn't that long ago, I might add. But, at that, you were either a teacher or a nurse. Really is one of the most portable careers when you're traveling, right. with literally your home on your back, and you're following your loved one all across the assignments that they take. Mm-hmm. So for me, I was kind of like a volunteer. I mm-hmm. gave to the community, gave to my family, and it was creatively. I always, I come from a very creative family. nobody's published or anything like that, but they all write or they all paint or they all draw or they all do something. And I've always enjoyed writing and painting and drawing and all of that, or something creative. I love the creative outlet.
Yeah.
And so for me, I did it in the military with note cards that soon took off. And I remembered that much later in years. It's funny how life is like that. You'll do something not that back, but, where you'll say, oh, wow, I didn't even know that impacted someone. And I should remember that. That means something. Well, I had created these note cards and I just sent them out as thank you cards, but they were for myself, my little stationery. But I would include like an emblem or something or a saying. It'd be a funny one. I'm kind of a bit of a wit,
Okay. Okay.
I say that.
We'll see about that, Gabby. We'll see about that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I say that with all modesty, but I do poke fun a little bit. But anyway, all these people, when I would send them out, then I would get questions like, well, my friend wants her design, her unit emblem on a, could you do hers or could you? And I started to see there was a group, which is really military spouses and people living this life that really were, the reason they were taking to it was because they saw their lives reflected in the message. One of the messages, the most popular note card design that I had was a simple, it was like the Army cap, what they wear, sort of like a baseball cap in camo. And it just said, military spouse. And around, and she had beautiful red lips and, little black tendrils. And that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a little sexy. But around her, it said military spouse and the original army of one. And what I implied by that is we have to do it all. We have to, plan, we're into plans, operations, intelligence.
Of course.
Logistics.
Right.
We handle it all,
You're basically a single mom for a tour too. Like that's the reality of it.
You are, yeah, in a lot of ways. And I certainly tip my hat off to all of the men and women who are supporting our men and women fighting, and because, it's an up-tempo all the time. It's an evergreen market. We will always have deployments, and we will always have, thankfully, God willing, an all-volunteer force, which we have now. And, we should be grateful for that. And so my goal was to shine a light on that life and the other half of the brave, which is those that support on the home front, which isn't easy.
Oh, absolutely. It's not easy. So you said you come from a creative family, but you also come from a military family. And so I had friends that grew up in the military, but, I would see they would stay around for a year and then they would have to leave. And I'm just wondering I can get like a firsthand experience, or secondhand, what was that like for you growing up in a military family? Were you always on the move or what was that like?
Yeah, well, my dad was a Vietnam veteran, and my whole family. And then, of course, I married into it. My gosh, I couldn't get away. But it was, I think what I love most about what I can really point you to is that I raised my son in the life. And seeing it from a parent's point of view and having experienced it, what I saw him go through, I kind of brought, to the table that sense of, okay, this is what I want him to remember. I'm going to make sure I do this.
Yeah.
Because, this was important. So some of those things would have been, like you said, you had a friend 1 year and then he was gone. Mm-hmm. One of those things for me was I wanted to ensure that, and Facebook really made this very easy because they could keep in contact, in that way.
Of course.
But really to go back also to the places that he used to live to keep those memories fresh because he could say, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, remember we did this.
Right.
And those are things that if you grow up in one community, you're always going to remember, Mr. Jones down the street that, yelled at us, and, Mrs. B that baked an apple pie for us, or, you guys had memories that are all around because you grew up in one community, and then you get older, and then you meet each other again. Military family kids do not have that kind of experience, and so they're very much like State Department children. And my son grew up in the life as well, and he's now 26, about to become 27. Oh my God. And I'm very proud of him. He's a graduate student at in California studying film producing.
Nice.
Very proud of him. Yeah, he's a good kid.
Smart kid.
I'll keep him.
Well, it's good.
I think it's a little late
Okay,
now, Mom.
You guys will love it. He'll kill me if he ever hears this. But before he moved to LA, which was just last August, to start his graduate studies, he was working for about, was it 2 years or 3 years? He was at HBO in the marketing marketing coordinator.
Can you tell me what happens next in Game of Thrones?
He was working on Game of Thrones.
So he can tell me what happens next.
No, he can't tell you anything. He can't tell you.
Oh my God.
No, but I'm so glad to see that Game of Thrones won, especially that actor, which I can never remember his name.
Which one? Jon Snow?
No, the little one. I'm sorry.
Oh, Peter Dinklage, Tyrion.
He's awesome. He is
awesome. For sure. He's honestly, I've only seen a few episodes of Game of Thrones. Usually, whenever my friends are either doing like a series finale episode, sort of bundle group of episodes. But yeah, I've always enjoyed Peter Dinklage.
He just seems like a nice, genuine guy. Seems funny.
Exactly. Nice, but wow, versatile. Like, I really think he carries a lot of that show. Myself.
Well, I mean, it was written for him. So the writer of the show, his favorite character is Tyrion, is Peter Dinklage. Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the author of the books came out and said, no, he's my favorite character. So that's kind of a giveaway that he's not going to die, knock on wood, but,
Knock on wood, absolutely. Let's not have him tossed into that bottomless hole.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
But anyway, so... okay, so now I'm off on a tangent. You can.
It's what we do here. It's what we do here.
So what were you talking about? Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
And,
HBO.
Growing up in the military and all of that. So so basically, that was really important. So my son went to the international school, and when we were in Europe, and so he made friends with kids from like 49 countries and Botswana and Israel, and so he's kept in touch with them, and I made sure, I think that's something as military parents we kind of do or have to do, is to kind of ensure that those bonds are there or strengthened, because in the end they will not have a place to go back to. I created one design that said I serve too and military life, and it's on my website. It's part of the military kids collection that I have created, but it just says where are you from? Everywhere. Yeah. And then it's just a word cloud. But then, one of the funniest parts that always gets people, it says, well, where are they going to hang the plaque? If I'm so famous, where are they going to put it? Yeah. Because, I don't, I have no place to hang a plaque because I don't have a place here I live, it might be gone tomorrow.
Okay, so what would you call home then? What do you think your son would call home then? Because he's traveled so much.
Yeah, it's true. I know. Well, he always says, "Mom, home is wherever you are." I love him. Not funny, but he wants me to do his laundry. Wanted to, but he is a sweet. He's a darling. But one of the things I think I would say he went to school, and I think those were the longest time he was in one place, and I think he calls that, and he was independent, when you're a college kid and you're first time on your own. And I really, I believe he would say it would be Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. And, okay. I'm Newport, so Rhode Island, so I'm not. But he comes home. Thank God.
Right.
Right. Of course.
So just wanted to kind of take a few steps back. Previously when we were talking about kind of the creative outlets and everything like that, you mentioned writing. And I was gonna ask you. I watched your Memorial Day tribute video that you have posted on YouTube, and honestly, it was I thought it was very well written, and I think kind of your flow and sort of the topic. I think you handled it very well. I was curious to know kind of your inspiration to start that. I mean, was there something significant in your life, this year that kind of prompted you to do that, or was this kind of always a project that you were sort of on the back burners till you wanted to, write and fully develop?
Yeah, I think, I wrote all of that, and then I did the voiceover on it and added the flag. It's a folded flag run, right?
Yeah.
Is that the? Oh yeah. It's funny. When I first started Homefront Girl, my agent at the time said, "What? Who is Homefront Girl?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, I just came up with the name. You asked me to come up with the name. I'm just like,
Sure.
So give me 24 hours. Let me think about this." And so then, we had a call the next day, and I said, and he asked me, I said, "Well, she's a mom, she's a sister, she's a wife, she's a spouse, she's, this and this. She's anyone that's ever loved someone serving in our military and shared that hero with the world." And that, he said, "Well, that'll be the touchstone that you will always go back to as an inspiration. And you need to touch on that." And it actually rang very true. And when it comes to writing, and when it comes to our men and women who serve in the military, life in general, as well as our first responders. And when you think of anyone who is really a hero in your life, who goes out of their way for something other than themselves, that's a heroic action. So for me, as the daughter of a vet, family that served in the military, it isn't hard for me to express at all my feelings for that. So Memorial Day and podcast, when I share things like on Facebook, or if I've done that on the YouTube channel, and regarding, also on LinkedIn, regarding Memorial Day, or I did one, the attacks on Nice, when that happened, things like that are just emotionally touch you, and I just feel like I'd like to express that in a way, to contribute something, not something angry, not something divisive. There's so much narrative out there now. It's just insane. On either, I don't care what side anyone's on. It's just so incredibly just everywhere. So it becomes almost a white noise for a while. So when you touch on events like Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Armed Forces Day, did you know that this is the month of, we always celebrate pink breast cancer survivor. I'm a breast cancer survivor, by the way. So, that's in October. But also, the month of September, I believe, is gold for pediatric cancer. And I didn't know that. Somebody pointed that out to me the other day, and I was like, I didn't know that, because I went to a pediatric cancer fundraiser a year ago, and I thought to myself, there's all these little heroes and all these things that are going on in the world that are positive stories, and too bad that they're getting drowned out by a lot of other noise. As important as it might be, it is getting drowned out, and sometimes it's overwhelming. So we forget some of those important moments, and that Memorial Day is more than a barbecue day. Veterans Day is more than that. There's so many traditions within the military that the civilian community, unless they have a close tie to the military, will not be aware of it. But if they were aware of it, I think it would touch their heart, and they would stand a little taller and certainly salute as they go by. Because they may not always wear the camo and the boots, but boy, you can always stand and salute them. And they don't call themselves heroes. I say that. Others say, families say that, because to us, in our eyes, of course, as a nation, they are, for doing what they do, because they sign a paycheck, as the saying goes, made out to the United States, to us, up to and including their life.
Yeah.
And that's what they do, because there's no guarantees.
Right.
So that's something to be valued. And I mean, I don't mean to get really morbid and dour, but
no. We understand, or I guess, let me put it this way. We can try to understand what, our men and service women go through. But at the end of the day, it's almost like a kid looking at, or like watching another kid burn himself, and it's like, I'm sure that's rough, but I haven't burned myself yet, so I don't know. but you can
Right,
still
exactly.
empathize with that. And I'm curious.
And
So
right.
you said you hung around with or you're big into cancer foundations and research and all that. I'm wondering, what would be your definition of a hero? Because you're around these people all day, every day. You're working to help better their lives. So you have heroes abroad and heroes at home. But what makes a hero in your eyes?
Well, when it came to the cancer, I spent 19 months at Johns Hopkins fighting stage 3 breast cancer.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I was there, and I just got back from my treatment of April of last year, it was also on the heels of dealing with divorce, affair, the whole shebang. All of it hit me just at once. It was just, whoa, one Mack truck. And I sort of had to go fight cancer, kind of reeling a bit. And what I found there was, sitting in a chemo bay every day or every other day whenever I would see so many people that, encouraged me by just the fact that, they're sitting there and they're taking something that's gonna, is gonna help you, God, willing, you're hoping.
Yeah.
But it's also gonna make you sick because, it does make you feel awful. And,
yep.
So all of us react differently to the medicines. And I thought, there's a incredible, preciousness to watching that happen because you're watching people fight in a different way. They may not be wearing the boots and the camo and going out there, but they're fighting for their lives in a way that they can because they have loved ones that love them and people that are waiting for them and people that are cheering them on. And so in that sense, they boosted my sense of going on. I had a son and it's like, I'm going to fight for my son because I don't want to leave him motherless on top of everything else he's going through. I'm not doing this. So I fought very hard. And when you ask me, as far as defining a hero, I think a hero is someone that has an incredible level of empathy. And that empathy leads them to say, send me. Or raise their hand and take a vow and say, I'll go. And I think if we can reflect back to 9/11 for just a moment, I mean, we're just a few days away from our 17th anniversary.
Right.
When you think about rushing into buildings while others are rushing out, and you have a family and you don't want to go, nobody wants to go. I mean, but yet they do it anyway. That's empathy. They understand there's another person there that is going to need help. And yet they still go in. And people may say, well, that's the job. And sometimes people say that about the military. Well, you signed up. That's suck it up, buttercup. But no, that's not the way it works. You never join the military. You join the military for many, many reasons. You approach it for a variety of reasons, but above and beyond, it's something that you lose a lot of your life along with it. Mm-hmm. You're not able to voice your opinions in many ways as others can because you are now wearing you're part of a team and you have an alliance to the Constitution and you can't really speak out against on political ways and things like that. And to be quite honest, the military family doesn't either because we have a service member serving, so you support that. So all of those things, I think, when we think back to people who were willing to give of themselves in 9/11, who rushed in, and those that we lost, and those that were heroic on a flight over Shanksville, which I believe was the first warriors of what we were facing as Americans, and to think that they took a vote as Americans as to what to do. That's pretty amazing. That even in a situation like that, they actually voted about what to do. And that's, to me, that's heroic. Families are heroic because they stand by and they close the door and listen to the news so the kids don't hear because world events impact military families' lives in a different way.
Yeah, of course.
Because it impacts them directly. So waiting is not easy. Worry is not easy to think of a loved one and if you didn't see them for a year and you knew they were in harm's way, how hard that would be. That takes a level of heroism, of waiting and caring. And, you just the fact that it's done on a daily basis by our military families and our military kids and friends, I think is something that in my small, very modest way is a way that I try to shine a little light on it. And that's what I wanted to do, really. And have some fun with it too.
Yeah,
I enjoy creating.
Of course. Just kind of along the same vein as being impacted by these world influences and really going along with finding that kind of balance, I guess you could say. We had Joe Lockett on our show, I believe a couple weeks ago, and we got on the conversation of specifically the NFL players kneeling during the anthem. I feel like this was kind of a predictable question that we had, obviously, with with your life being so influenced with military and really being guided by this. So I just quick question on your 50 cents on what's going on, kind of the form of is it okay to do this type of protest? Is it okay? Is there a different medium that we could be explaining these grievances and really is this the best way, or is there a different way?
I am so happy to answer that.
Awesome.
Because speaking as myself, Gaby Juergens,
sure, of course,
former daughter of a veteran and from a military family, and having lived this life for a very long time, not too long, but a very long time.
You're what, like 27, right? Is that?
Yeah,
Yuval.
Yuval. Thank you, Yuval. You're so nice.
Of course.
Okay, now let's get serious. I personally found it offensive.
Really?
Very offensive.
Okay.
That anyone would kneel or take a knee at the sound of the national anthem. The way I look at it is this. That flag and our nation's symbolism in that flag, for whatever reason, whatever you want to call it. I mean, people are going to disagree. The fact that it covers our men and women who come home, who don't get to come home on their own 2 feet. They come home. And that flag is presented to a family when their loved one does not come home. And it is due its respect. And our youth are watching. What kind of a world are we going to have for our youth? I am all for expressing your opinion and doing it. But I think there comes a time when you should pause a moment and reflect on it. What are you doing? There was recently an article a couple days ago. I shared it. I said, okay, let's make these guys famous. So I shared it on my Facebook fan page. A man and a woman were caught at a veterans ceremony on September 11th, removing the American flags and then urinating on them.
Oh my God.
No,
oh my Lord.
No.
Wow.
No.
That's...
Yeah. So one man caught them and recorded them, and so that was put out. And I just, when I saw it, I was sharing it, and I said, make them famous. Help the police catch these guys. If something is wrong when we lose a sense of respect, at least, you're here, the ability of saying Nike's new ad, sacrifice this, sometimes you have to give it up. In actuality, yes, you sometimes have to sacrifice a lot for what you believe in. And no one knows that better than those who put on that uniform and go and do the business of fighting the wars of our nation.
Absolutely.
And no one does that better. No one wants to go.
Right.
Trust me, nobody's eager to get on a white bus and head out onto a C-140. They're there to actually do what they have to do, and they leave their loved ones and their children. That's sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Not millions and millions of dollars and that.
Right. Gaby, did you see Taya Kyle's post about the new Nike campaign? Did you ever see that?
No, but I like her.
Yeah, absolutely. I would check that out. It's interesting just from a military wife's point of view. It was really interesting. All right, we're gonna go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, we're just gonna tangent again. We're just gonna.
Tangent.
Yeah, we're just gonna jump around.
Yeah, I was just going to say something that occurred to me, and you could probably cut out all the other stuff except this one. And I was going to say, when you said, yeah, all the other stuff I said. One of the things that I thought of, the first time, and this is not to belabor the point, but when I see someone not stand for our flag and I see a Marine with no legs sitting in a wheelchair and saluting, and yet I see players, when this is supposed to be just watch a game, right?
Right.
Watch a game, everybody have a good time.
Yeah.
And all I can think of when I look at that is I've lived my life with a front row seat to heroism and sacrifice. And I was very grateful for that because it taught me a lot. And I thought to myself, next time that we have an ISIS issue or something happens in the world, military men and women, take a knee. Let's send in the NFL.
I don't know if you'd get a lot of volunteers for that, Gaby.
You'd really see people's true character.
Yeah, you just have to understand that this is, they just go, and a lot of military are okay. There are some people that are okay with it, and that's okay too. Everyone has a right to their opinion. Myself, I just find anything that has to do with the flag and our anthem,
that's crossing the line.
It means a lot, and people, our children are watching. What kind of, and they learn by that.
Almost like a respect for the bigger picture, right?
Yeah,
because like in school, I was hammered into my head, unfortunately, because I was a rambunctious child. Respect the position. Respect your teachers. Even if they're not that great of a person, or maybe they're not that great of a teacher, you should always show respect just specifically for that position of teacher, principal, counselor, whatever it is. Because that's just, I think that's the courteous thing to do, and I think that's common decency. So I can totally see it applies. Yeah, totally see it apply right here.
I think it has to do, I don't know if you know that on military bases, our children, military kids grow up with a lot of course, because their fathers are serving. The flag has a great significance. It's lowered, it's raised. Mm-hmm. They know that the flag is being lowered. They hear it, and they get off their bicycles and they stand and face wherever the flag may be on the base, and their hand over their heart. That's something that is just in their DNA. They are taught that. And they do it out of respect. They don't do it because they had to do it. Nobody's watching over them. It's something that my son did. It's something that you do out of love for what that means. And for some people, it may not mean the same thing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm a proud American, and I'm very proud of the service that my family rendered, and those that are at home waiting. I think there's something that we should always hold in the highest of respects, and should not be a political toy,
of course,
in any way, shape, or form. And if you've ever seen the arrivals at Dover, think twice before you do something that's desecrating a flag, or it's somebody died for that, and they come home under it.
Of course.
But then again, we also live in a world where a lot of people think, well, that's archaic thinking, and I think it was somebody on some show said, enough of the patriotism at the football games.
Let's get rid of patriotism at football games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so, and I don't remember, and I'm not going to give that person any kind of airtime, but it's just, like I said, it's just,
well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, though, right? So if you take away, you for some, just to play devil's advocate, you can't, or why can't you, express your patriotism through, invoking your First Amendment right versus, taking patriotism and, making sure that it's number one at football games. It's like, it's kind of a weird balance, like you've always saying, where you have to find the balance of, we're here to play football and forget about, all the BS that's going on, and, that's all the problems that are going on in the U.S. right now. But at the same time, there still needs to be some moments where you can reflect on the reason we're getting to watch football is because these men and women have sacrificed everything in order to, so that we can watch the Cowboys lose. It's just
to watch the Cowboys lose. Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, and I'm not, and I am all for everyone being able to, because those rights are, are rights that are being fought for,
Mm-hmm.
And they're the first ones to say, that I'm putting my life on the line for those rights, for you to be able to live at home and go home and be with your families. I can't be with my family, but I'll go and do it. And that's when I said, what's a hero? It's the one that raises his hand and says, send me.
Yeah.
Or I'll do it. And the smallest thing it might be, it may not be camo boots and full battle rattle, but it might be something else. And that is just as significant to whoever's at the receiving end of it. And so, for me personally, and that's how I spoke, I think that it is very, very difficult for me to see the desecration of the American flag.
Yeah.
Like what happened a couple of days ago by those men at the Veterans Cemetery, or that man and that woman.
That's insane. I never heard that. I've heard burning the flag. I've heard stepping on it, but I've never heard like urinating on the flag.
The photograph. The guy took the photograph of the little flags on the ground next to him. I think it was a Civil War monument. It was an old Veterans Cemetery, and completely urinated on. I mean, it was just so from where. What causes someone to consider our flag that bad? I mean, what exactly is the
I think it's lack of knowledge. For me personally, I think it's just.
I would actually have to disagree with that. I wouldn't say necessarily it's a lack of knowledge, but I mean, and I feel like you can trace it to any movement in American history, is that you're going to have and not to put kind of a negative connotation on it, but you have the mainstream, and you have kind of the idea of respect the flag. You have this sense of patriotism, which I think a large chunk of Americans they feel that sense. But then you also have just the counterculture, and I think there are, and unfortunately, this is kind of the we give you as much freedom as you want, and it's I guess a good and a bad thing, because then someone might interpret that where if they're part of that counterculture, where they're part of that, let's not look at this patriotism in a positive way. Let's and I mean, honestly, I don't know how you could skew it that way.
Yeah. I think that's what it is, and I agree with you. I don't think it's so much that they don't know it or they aren't aware. I think it's just the fact they're living we're all living in sort of where almost patriotism is looked askance almost as something that, okay, well, we may offend someone here or I don't see that, but I think that we are creating a culture where less respect is shown.
Oh, for sure.
Our country in certain symbols of our country. And I don't think that ever helps any country. I lived all over the world. I don't know, and I'll put Germany as an example, where they would have allowed, certain things to happen within their country, like certainly their flag, at all. And there's great pride there. And there's great pride here. But yet we do have these freedoms, and yet somehow, I guess we depend on, hopefully, that as Americans, we came together on September 11th, 2001. Let us remember that, we're a country, and we can have differences, and we come from all walks, shapes, and all countries, and that's what makes us so great. And those should be our defining strengths and qualities, not our divisiveness.
Yeah.
And we should be under one flag, and that is the American flag, and that's who our men and women serve under and for. So
Oh, go ahead.
It's almost like it's just a cycle, because after World War II we had this extreme sense of patriotism, right? And then after the Vietnam War, or during the Vietnam War, you had soldiers coming back that were getting spit on, yelled at, and there was a lack of patriotism there. And then we saw, kind of a blip of nothing during the 80s, where we were still prideful because America's number one and the Russians, are they're dead last. But it's a cycle where after September 11th, everyone came together, like you said. But now we're seeing that cycle kind of turn back around.
Right. But we are almost like really trying very hard to kind of tone it down, because we might have, it might not sit well.
Yeah.
And I don't quite get that. I know, and that might be because of my background. I just don't know why that would be.
Well,
I think we should all be proud. Our country has done, isn't perfect. We have a lot of problems, but overall, we live in the greatest country, I think, in the world.
Amen.
And we should be grateful for that.
Amen. Damn it.
So to touch back at what you were saying in terms of growing up kind of in a less I apologize. We're raising our kids, and kind of the generations today are kind of growing with a less respect towards authority / our government / the military. There's sort of this, again,
snowflake generation.
Well, I wouldn't say snowflake generation necessarily. I think it might stem from from these, because we say, you can do whatever you want, you can be whatever you want. Hey, if you've got money in your pockets, you can make a name for yourself. I think there's this this sense of individualism, I guess, that's starting to develop, especially prominently now, like probably 2000 and after. There's this sense of individualism where, little Johnny, he's going to want to support the military and support, this, and be as patriotic as he wants. And he's going to grow up like that and be respectful and everything like that. But then little Bobby, on the other hand, he's going to see that and say, well, I don't necessarily want that. And I think just even as innocent as a disagreement right there, I think that can kind of avalanche into something big, where immediately when you give people the chance to disagree, or the people that you especially now, with these kids growing up with technology, and I'm not to get super heavy into technology, but I think kind of we've built this environment where anyone has the ability to say, I don't like that, and I'm going to disagree with it, and I'm going to get my friends. And, I think the idea that we can rally together so quickly, it's crazy. Just like, with companies, and not to tangent too much, but companies, celebrities and stuff like that, immediately just the flip of, this person did something bad, or this company was partnered with somebody else who found out that they were doing something
or
bad.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
we have this ability as an individual to to say, I don't like that. I'm not for that. I'm not going to agree that. And and
start a movement.
Yeah,
and basically put a whole bunch of people together on a Facebook page or on a Twitter page, and say, let's meet at this place, and you cause, and sometimes I think that with a lot of that is sometimes the loudest voice isn't necessarily the majority of the voice. It's just the loudest one, and it's the one that's getting the most attention. So it's not everyone goes out there. Not everyone's doing a lot of that. So I think overall, I think we have to, all of us, look at it and just think, we're like I said, we are a country of a fabric of a million different colors and a different religions, different thoughts and ways of thinking, and that's what makes us great. And that's it's just that the conversation has taken such a acrimonious level to a point on all sides, and I think that hurts our country more than helps. And it's certainly, I always think we have our youth and the next generation watching and seeing what are we doing. Certainly, not making it better if we don't have the ability to have discourse with respect. So I think that, I just think it's very easy to form a movement and to just say, I don't like it, this, and the repercussions can be quite damaging.
Well, I think it stems from just people thinking their opinion matters much more than it actually does. That's just what I see.
I agree with you, and I think we've become a nation of how many likes did you get for that, or how many followers do you have, how many posts do you. It's like our whole sense of who we are is predicted by what our Facebook, our social media tells us we like. I mean, it's really kind of really scary in a way. because it forms people, especially our youth, their sense of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary because it shouldn't be based on whether or not you have 20 likes on your post or how many friends you have or.
If you want to see something really, really scary, are you familiar with the show Black Mirror? I
saw that. That's on Netflix, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, they've got like 4 seasons out on it. I believe it's the first episode of season 3. Not to get super into it, but essentially, your financial happiness, your job happiness, your life, your family, friends, career, everything revolves around your how many likes you have,
how many stars, right?
Yeah, or stars or likes or
you basically have
system.
Something hovering over your head, and it tells and it's for everyone to see,
mm-hmm.
and it basically says how many stars or how many likes how many people like you,
and so if you have if you're nice to people and you're kind of I think the underlying message is that it's supposed to like build this fake niceness.
You're trying to make people think you're better than who you are,
right? And so it went super across the board with kind of the story and the message and stuff like that. But that's kind of
super creepy.
Oh
super
no,
creepy.
it's a very well done show. I think it's very awesome in terms of its morals and its lessons. There are a couple episodes that I have to take a couple minutes after watching it to process what I saw. But we're not talking about Black Mirror,
wow.
So but I definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of like Logan's Run. I don't know if you guys know that old classic pop culture film.
No,
but,
unfortunately not.
Google it or IMDb it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of like that. But it's kind of where you're walking around with a visible stars like I'm really popular. I'm very this or that. I mean, it all comes down to that same sort of this is who I am. I'm a caramel macchiato, or I'm a this,
Right.
Everybody's like, or I'm a Nike pair of shoes, or trying to identify with something and a statement. So I don't know.
One thing where we kind of need to wrap up at this point. We definitely talked over the half hour allotted time,
which is fine, by the way.
Which is totally fine.
You can cut a lot out.
Oh no, hey, this is
like
all,
you've all
is
said.
All
he's going to be cutting out most of what I say.
We'll be talking. We'll be talking. We just won't hear Blake. I'll just cut Blake's entire track.
That's sad. I'll take some of it. You can have some of my. Okay, yeah.
Wow,
Thank you. Do you see how to be nice to people? I
don't know. It's all foreign to me. It doesn't make sense. Be nice to Blake. What does that mean? So to kind of end on this, to get your opinion, to tie it back to originally the Memorial Day tribute writing that you did. The very last line you said, "Freedom is never free," and I'd love to just really pick your brain on what that means to you, and really expand on that, because I think that's a brilliant phrase. I think it speaks a lot, but more directly, what does it speak to you?
Well, I did one design called that. Basically, it actually came to me while I was doing a service at Arlington National Cemetery. I served as an Army Arlington lady, so I was a part of the formal ceremony of the burial, and representing the Army family. And I arrived early, and I wrote down in my journal, because I've kept journals my whole life, and it's what I've actually tapped into as I start to design. But I wrote down something that just said, "Imagine a world without heroes. Freedom is never free." And then I wrote that down in 2004, but in 2001, while I was at the Naval War College with my husband and family at the time, on September 11th, after that horrendous day and the day after, I wrote this small gift book, said, "If I could write a story, the hero would be you." And I knew that what we were facing was, as many of us who have family in the military knew at that time, and the country, I think, realized we were at war, and it would take a long time, and possibly, who knows, I knew our men and women in the military were going to bear a part of that sacrifice by going over and doing the fighting, and the families would. So that came to me to mean that freedom is never free. That, that is the sacrifice that is placed at that flag by the men and women who have to leave their loved ones. Nobody wants to leave their loved ones and go off. They miss the first of all the things that we take for granted. The first birth, the first baby steps, the first, father-daughter dance. They watch birth on Skype. Those are sacrifices that maybe we don't think about. I mean, it certainly isn't, that they're being paid bucks and bucks of money or all these benefits that may or may not be a conceived idea that the public may have of our military families. They don't get these discounts that are like over the world. A lot of them are doing it for other reasons. And it's never going to be for money because it's not about that because they don't get it. But I will say, if you don't mind, if I could just do one plug.
No, go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
Please, I'd like to encourage anyone listening, please go to homefrontgirl.com. I currently have 2 items on my website that are tied to 2 military charities. One is a teddy bear collection called the Homefront Girl Teddy Bear collection. And for every bear that you purchase from my website, a portion will go to Operation Homefront, which strengthens military families. And the other one is a candle collection that I started just this June, and it is tied to United Through Reading, which helps bridge the gap of deployment through fathers and mothers reading bedtime stories on a video, and then it's sent back to the families so that the kids can watch mom and dad reading them a story at night.
That's amazing.
And it's wonderful. So please support the collections. I would be very, very grateful. It means a lot.
Of course. And anything else you'd like to plug? I know you've got 2 books. One's a recipe book. Anything specifically right now that you're working on, or any good stuff?
I have a new apparel collection that will be coming out through Flying Colors, and I'm very excited about that. I'm in the process of working on that. We have a red collection, a Navy, which really Navy, Marine, Coast Guard, we're a service on the sea kind of collection, and one that is a signature collection, and the other one introduced a little later will be one that has to do with just basic red, white, and blue pride. And so I've been working on that collection, and I do have a 2019 deployment calendar, and you can go to my website and in a Facebook page and Instagram. I'm on Instagram under Homefront Girl, and you can follow me there, and there's always updates on anything that's coming up, especially the giveaways.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, so thanks, guys. I appreciate your time.
No, definitely.
Gabby, thank you.
Thank you so much for talking. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate that.
Might be the nicest person I know.